In a terrifying corner of old tales, there's a story about the 7 princes of hell. This tale mainly talks about how Lucifer is linked with these princes. The Bible doesn't directly say much about this story, but many find it very interesting. People have been curious about this story for more than 600 years. Today we're going to look into what they thought. One expert who had interesting ideas was Peter Binsfeld. He believed that these 7 princes were connected to the 7 deadly sins, the bad things people sometimes do. In his view, each prince stood for one sin and used it to cause trouble for humans. So, who was Peter Binsfeld? He was a very important church leader and a smart guy who studied religion. He came from a place called Germany. Some people say he was born in 1540, others think it was in 1545, so we're not completely sure. When he was young, he was really good at learning. Because he was so smart, he got a chance to go to Rome, a big city in Italy, to study even more. When he came back to Germany after studying, many people started to notice him because of his smart ideas. He felt very strongly about certain religious beliefs, especially against one called Protestantism. He did a lot to try and stop it from spreading, but what made many people know about him was something called the Trier witch trials. These trials happened between 1581 and 1593. During these trials, people thought some women were witches, and Peter played a big role in them. This made him very famous, but not always in a good way. In a time of intense scrutiny and suspicion, Binsfeld wrote a book called Of the Confessions of Warlocks and Witches. In it, he boldly claimed that any confession, even if forced out of someone by extreme methods like torture, should be taken as the absolute truth. What made this stance even more striking was that Binsfeld wasn't just anyone. He was a highly respected religious leader and an expert on things beyond our understanding back then. Then, in the year 1589, during the height of the notorious witch trials, Binsfeld revealed a special list. This wasn't any ordinary list. It named the demons he was convinced were the real rulers of hell. But he had another idea up his sleeve. He believed that behind each of the 7 deadly sins was a demon playing puppet master. So, who were these puppeteers? Let's dive in. Lucifer is the embodiment of pride. Pride is seen as the top dog among the sins, and that's exactly what Binsfeld is referring to. You might have heard of Lucifer as the angel who turned against heaven. Basically, because Lucifer thought way too highly of himself, he believed he could overthrow heaven. But his plans crumbled, and he got kicked out, only to be branded as a demon. His story serves as a big, glowing sign of the dangers of letting pride take control. A lot of experts believe Lucifer is the main man among the demon lords. But the names Lucifer and Satan often get mixed up. Some say Lucifer is the real devil, while others think it's Satan. Occasionally, you'll even hear about a different rebellious angel called Azazel being in Lucifer's shoes. Up next is Mammon. His name translates to money in a few languages. If you thought of greed when you read money, you'd be spot on. Mammon represents the sin of gluttony. In the good old Bible, Mammon isn't a dude. He's an idea representing obsession with wealth. But as time passed, especially during the Middle Ages, Mammon started to be seen as an actual entity. He was portrayed in art and stories as the demon of greed. So, scholars began to point at him as a top-ranking demon in hell, one who would trap people with dreams of riches. Sometimes Mammon gets mixed up with Beelzebub. Even though both gluttony and greed mean wanting too much stuff, they're different at their core. Then there's Asmodeus, who's all about lust. We get most of our juicy details about him from the Book of Tobit and some stories from Jewish traditions, like the tales surrounding the construction of Solomon's big temple. Whether you were a peasant or a king, Asmodeus could make your thoughts wander into uncharted territories. Nobody felt safe. In the Book of Tobit, Tobit fell head over heels for a woman named Sarah and made sure no one else could have her. He even went so far as to kill 7 of her past husbands on their wedding nights. But Sarah's 8th husband, Tobias, didn't meet the same tragic end. He drove Asmodeus away, thanks to some solid advice from the archangel Raphael. By burning fish guts, yes, fish guts, on coals, he sent Asmodeus right into Raphael's trap. There are many stories where Asmodeus and King Solomon cross paths. In some, Asmodeus even marries Lilith, another demon, and makes her his queen. Sometimes he looks like any regular guy, but other times he's a weird mix of human and animal. There's a belief in the Kabbalah that he's half human, half demon because his parents were a succubus and King David. When Binsfeld talks about Leviathan, he's connecting it to the sin of envy and labels it as the fourth demon prince. You're not alone if you hear Leviathan and imagine a gigantic sea creature, but linking this sea monster to envy and hell is unique. Although it's primarily a Christian idea, Leviathan has many meanings in various religions. Thomas Aquinas, who was both a philosopher and a priest, described Leviathan in a terrifying manner, a demon that would gulp down envious men in one go. Many believe that Leviathan was the gateway to the underworld. In art from the Anglo-Saxon period, Leviathan took many forms, sometimes a massive serpent, sometimes a whale, and occasionally a crocodile. But its most striking feature was its enormous mouth, which was believed to be the entrance to hell, often referred to as the hell mouth or the jaws of hell. It's thought that the idea of this vast mouth led to this belief. Next, we meet Beelzebub, the one who watches over those who eat too much. He has some really cool wings, and because of that, people call him the Lord of Flies or Lord of Flyers. Lots of stories from different places and religions talk about Beelzebub. In a book called The Law of Solomon, they say he's a bad angel and is close friends with Satan. He's not just any regular demon. He can cause a lot of problems like making people jealous, worshiping other things instead of God, and even killing others. A man named Johann Veer, who knew a lot about demons, thought Beelzebub was Lucifer's main helper. John Milton, a poet, also thought this and wrote about Beelzebub as a big bad angel in Paradise Lost. While someone named Binsfeld said he was the leader of those who ate too much, others said he had to do with other bad things like worshiping the wrong things and thinking too highly of oneself. Now, let's talk about Satan. When you think of demons, you can't forget Satan, the most famous bad guy. How Binsfeld talked about him sounds like what Christians believe. After the year 1480, many people in Europe became very scared of witches. This was especially true in places like France and Germany, where Binsfeld was from. In 1487, two men, Heinrich Kramer and Jacob Springer, penned a powerful book, Malleus Maleficarum. Their words declared all magic to be the work of Satan. Imagine. Because of this book, everyone began fearing magic even more, linking it directly to the devil. Before, in the times called the Middle Ages, pictures showed Satan as weak. But as whispers of witches spread, he began to seem more and more terrifying. The church, once focused on other beliefs, now turned their eyes to the devil. They feared that just thinking about him could lead many astray. Twice told, two men shifted an age-old view, making everyone see the devil in a new, darker light. And now, Belphegor, the Lord of Laziness. Binsfeld had his own way of describing him, but Belphegor is not just about making people lazy. He tricks people and messes with their thoughts. He can change how he looks, always picking a look that he thinks will trick people best. Belphegor can make people think they have a great idea and then come in and steal it. Do you see any reflections of these sins in our modern world? Let us know in the comments, smash that like, and subscribe for more.